Death comes for us all in the end. Whether we meet our end at the hand of disease, injury, or thousands of irate wasps, we eventually all behold the pale horse and its rider. The monkey follows the tale of twin brothers, and the murderous wind-up monkey that is absolutely not a toy. He doesn't like it when you call him a toy. This is not just any murderous wind-up monkey. It's a magical murderous wind-up monkey. The rules of this monkey and his business are as follows. Once this not a toy is wound, it starts playing its drum. Once the monkey is playing its drum, people nearby start dying. Usually not the person who did the winding. All of this aforementioned winding and dying results in the slaying of the boy's mother. Shortly after this, the boys realize the evil nature of the not a toy and toss that sucker down a well. Problem solved. Problem not solved. 25 years later, the monkey comes back and starts killing once again. What follows is a story of brotherhood, fatherhood, and a poignant examination of loss. Not really. It's mostly just watching people get Final Destinationed and creepy shots of a mechanical monkey. People don't really seem to like it when I speak poorly of things they enjoy. So I'm going to do two things in this video in order to remedy that. The first is to make this disclaimer. I really wanted to like this movie. I wanted to like it so bad. Evil Dead 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time, so the horror comedy subgenre is right up my alley. The proper ordering of the Evil Dead franchise is Evil Dead 2, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, The Evil Dead, and then Army of Darkness. I will die on this hill. Come at me with swords drawn, ye unwatched masses. But back to the monkey. Like I said, I love the Evil Dead works in the empirically correct order. So I'm very amenable to any work that combines the genres of horror and comedy successfully. So yeah, I wanted to like this movie, and it's not that I disliked the monkey, but it definitely fell off for me at a certain point. I say all of this to illustrate that whatever criticisms I make them as a fan of the genre. So I would ask that you take that into consideration if you deign to comment. Or don't. Smash your head into a keyboard and hit enter for all I care. The second thing I'm going to do in order to ameliorate the hate comments is make this review into what some people call a compliment sandwich, which is where I compliment this movie whilst indulging in a hoagie. The first thing I like about the monkey is that it's really pretty to look at. From the lighting to the framing to the costuming, this movie is just really easy on the old eyeballs. I don't have the words to describe this phenomenon without sounding like a pretentious art tool, so I'm just going to play a 20-second montage of all the beautiful cinematography on display in The Monkey. See what I mean? Fucking beautiful. There's really only one thing that I didn't like about this movie, but it's a pretty big thing. The story. Well, 66% of the story. The narrative of The Monkey is divided into two segments. One where the protagonist is a teenager, and one where he is an adult. The segment where the main character is a teenager is actually quite good. We get a really touching tale of life with an irksome older sibling, and in general, a reasonably sincere version of what life is like for an introvert in high school. Our hearts are warmed when they ought to be warmed. Our bile rises when it ought to rise. We are sad when we ought to be sad, and so on. Where this movie sort of goes off the rails for me is when they flash forward into the future. What made Hal endearing as an awkward teenager makes him kind of annoying as an adult. What was an ominously eerie supernatural aspect in the earlier parts of the movie has morphed into some strange Rube Goldberg-inspired fever dream. There seem to be hints at deeper themes like fatherhood, parenthood, and brotherhood, but for the life of me, I cannot see how any of these themes are expanded upon in more than a very superficial way. I know that this is an adaptation of a Stephen King short story. A Stephen King short story that I have not read. After watching this movie, I came away feeling as if something got lost in translation between the two mediums. The narrative of the movie started off strong, but by the end, It just became a bloated cacophony of sight gags, letting the plot fall by the wayside a bit. I'm left wondering if maybe the original work had a more robust explanation of its characters and their motivations, but these aspects were cut from the film version for one reason or another. Or maybe there was simply not enough material in the short story to sufficiently pad out the runtime of the feature film. Either way, I will unfortunately be left with these questions until the eventual heat death of the universe, because the answers to them can only be found by reading. And we at Taco Cat Productions take a strong stance against reading of any kind. The final area I would like to address, and the thing I liked most about The Monkey, is its overall comedic sensibility. For a movie about such a dark subject matter, The Monkey is genuinely very funny. The primary source of comedy is obviously in the varying death gags. All of these bits are choreographed so well, and every single one of them at least gave me a chuckle. It's been a while since I've seen any of the Final Destination movies, but it seems pretty apparent that there was a significant amount of influence drawn from these films. After all, the core gimmick of each of these respective works is people dying in outlandish ways. The difference is that Final Destination, as I recall, seems to give these deaths a little bit more gravitas, whereas The Monkey leans more heavily into the absurdity of these moments, and I think that this is a change for the better. By framing these death gags in a more humorous way, the movie takes on a significantly less ominous tone, allowing for the audience to simply revel in the cartoonish nature of these scenes. That isn't to say that The Monkey is entirely without genuine suspense. From the start of the film, the bargain with the audience is struck. Most of the people that you see on screen will eventually die on screen. You'll know approximately when they will die, but you will not know how they will die. Once the monkey starts pounding on his drum, the audience knows that someone is about to kick the bucket, and the film plays on that. It shows us various elements at play, and our minds begin to attempt to put these puzzle pieces together. And when each death happens, it typically happens in a way that we did not expect, leading us to try harder on the next macabre puzzle. This loop of setups combined with unexpected payoffs is what builds suspense and keeps the audience engaged. I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't love it either. At a certain point, the plot seems to spin a bit out of control, and less consideration seems to be given to it, and the focus seems to shift to the gags. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. These sight gags are exceptional, and in conjunction with the stellar cinematography, allow the tone to more than make up for what the narrative is lacking, allowing for what is in totality a reasonably enjoyable cinematic experience. A solid 6.5 out of 10.